and welcome to the SciFirst MovieTalk episode. So in this episode, I'll be discussing the 1956 science fiction classic Forbidden Planet, as directed by Fred M. Wilcox. So, this film is a fantastical journey into the unknown, set very far, well, kind of far, into the future on a planet known as Altair 4. From a time in film when a flying saucer was really a saucer, you know? We start this journey in the film by catching up with a team of men from the United Planets aboard the C-57D spacecraft, sent on a mission to Altair 4 to investigate how a team of scientists who travelled to the planet some 20 years ago or so have kind of been faring since their arrival, and to offer them some relief after 20 years, you know. Upon their arrival, they are warned from landing on the planet by Dr. Edward Morbius, as played by Walter Pidgeon, and is one of the original team of scientists, citing that if they land, they'll be in grave danger, and he cannot be held responsible for what may happen to them. The team, they've got their orders. They land anyway, and discover that Morbius is the last surviving member of the original expedition, and now lives alone with his daughter, Altera, as played by Anne Francis, and their robot assistant, Robbie. The rest of the scientific team had perished many years ago after falling foul to some unknown and unseen dark presence on the planet. Only Morbius and his wife, Julia, were immune. Sadly, his wife did pass away of natural causes sometime there soon after. Thrown this curveball, the captain of the C-57D, Commander John J. Adams, as played by none other than Leslie Nielsen, kind of has to relay this newfound information back to Earth. However, the crew of the C-57D soon learn that they too are experiencing some of unseen presence, if you like, on the planet, determined to kind of wreak havoc to the ship, destroying equipment and mutilating its crew. As the mystery kind of unravels, we learn more about the planet and its secrets, an unfathomable amount of knowledge and advanced technology like no other before, left behind by an ancient race of beings known as the Krell, who had reached an ultimate state of being many, many millennia ago. So, the Forbidden Planet is generally regarded as pretty much one of the best science fiction movies of the 1950s. And to be honest, based on the movies that I have actually watched from this era, I do have to agree with that sentiment. You know, for its time, it is excellently designed and very well thought out. And it is basically an absolute trailblazer in its genre for many, many reasons. The first being the fact that this is actually one of the very first movies where humankind has actually travelled to another world on their own accord, having achieved faster-than-light travel. In fact, this film contains many of the basic building blocks that many of the movies and TV shows that, you know, of today kind of rely upon, such as, again, faster-than-light travel, placing people in stasis, intergalactic communication, albeit somewhat clumsily in this film, robotics, advanced and enlightened civilizations, strange new adaptive worlds, and the basis for an intergalactic space unit, the United Planets in this one, very close to the Star Trek's Federation. And even phasers make an appearance. All elements very familiar, like I said, to the Star Trek series at the very least, which followed this movie some 9 years later. You can certainly see what an influence this movie has had on the science fiction genre in general, space travel in particular. The second is Robbie, the robot, who quite simply steals the show in this movie. Robbie marks the real first on-screen appearance of any robot in movies that kind of wasn't just simply a tin can. It has a real on-screen presence of its own and pretty much the best of the film's one-liners. It has a real pivotal role to the plot, getting involved with the crew of the C-57D in many, many ways, often with hilarious consequences. Playing very much to the way one would kind of expect a robot to communicate and behave, but whilst also at the same time kind of giving Robbie a real distinct personality and even an attitude at times. Giving Robbie a real likeable quality without kind of making it seem cheesy or childlike. At the time, of course, when one single computer filled a room, this was the stuff of science fiction at the time, never mind anything else. The foresight to then create a robot with such immense computing capability in one small package was simply superb at the time, And NB, I keep using the word it for Robbie, as by its own admission, the term male or female has no meaning to its state of being at all. It's a robot, but admittedly, it does have a male voice. But in the movie, it's actually credited as itself, Robbie the Robot. In fact, so iconic is Robbie the Robot that its movie and TV career didn't end with this film. It went on to feature in all sorts of classic TV shows in one guise or another, from Lost in Space, The Twilight Zone, to even Columbo, at Mork and Mindy, I think, and making a fantastic cameo in appearance in 1984's Gremlins. Gotta look for him, but he is there, and it's fantastic when you spot him, bro. Additionally, and I say he, I'm getting mixed up now as well. But additionally, Robbie makes another feature film appearance of its own. And I have discovered in the 1957 movie, The Invisible Boy, a film I will actually be reviewing later this week. I had no idea it existed, so yes, I was absolutely excited to see it and see how Robbie kind of played out in that movie. Thirdly, however, and that was a long second, but thirdly, the story. This is actually quite involved and considered for a science fiction film of its era, in essence. Bringing together many kind of different aspects of science fiction and playing on the fears of the mind, rather than giving us little green men or some other space creature with kind of so many tentacles it could never have built a toaster, never mind a spacecraft capable of faster than light travel. It plays out like a mystery thriller in space, with a puzzle to unravel as we get more involved in the story. And in this respect, it is sincerely fascinating. It really is. Basing the movie in space, on a new and unique planet, not Earth, it was a bold move at the time, kind of putting humans in space, even bolder, but one which I think works exceedingly well in this movie. Admittedly, the movie is pretty slow, and at times it can be pretty matter-of-fact in its delivery, but that's a sign of the times. It does, however, feel like the creators wanted us to absorb as much of the science fiction elements being introduced to us as best as we could. And in this respect, it doesn't kind of blast everything at you all at once. And instead, really does kind of focus on building a grand alien world steeped in a rich history. If you bear with it, it does start to get you more and more involved with its characters, and certainly more intriguing as we explore the rationale for the planet's dark presence. Like I said, it's not a movie about little green men, nor an invasion movie. It's a human story set in space. In fact, one worthy of today's modern science fiction shows, absolutely. It has a fantastic premise, the monster within, and the perils of technology, examining where our own civilization may end up one day. The special effects in the movie are just divine. For its time, breathtaking, absolutely. Okay, so by today's standards, you know, they're not really up to much. It's saucers on a string, you know. But to be fair, they do a real good job at standing their ground, given that the film was released in 1956. The alien world and the unseen force that are presented in this movie are fantastical, to say the very least, and a real treat to behold. They really, really are. However, unfortunately, the movie hasn't kind of stood up against time in every way, and kind of does suffer in parts from some very outdated concepts. Particularly the perceived expectations of women, and the attitudes of men of the spacecraft in treating Alteria as if she was their plaything, taking advantage of her naivety, and when called on their behaviour, the blame is placed squarely at Alteria's door, being it her fault for the outfits she's wearing. Just asking for trouble, basically. However, thankfully, this is only a small proportion of the film, and if you kind of can look past this and the copious leching of the crew in general towards Alteria, which does feel a bit icky now at times, I must admit, then what you do have, ultimately, is a genuine science fiction classic. So overall, this has to be one of the most prominent films of the 1950s, certainly in the science fiction genre, with it having such an impact on that genre. Its core concept can be seen in many films and TV shows that followed, and its legacy still lives on to this very, very day. It has a very futuristic feel from the very start, and given its age, still holds up particularly well today, absolutely, if albeit with a number of outdated concepts in its attitudes towards women. So, that brings me to the end of this episode. Thank you very much for watching. I do hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, please leave a like. Please do hit that subscribe button for more movie reviews, trailer reactions, and other movie-related content. Absolutely loved having you here at SciFirst MovieTalk, and we would definitely like to have you back for all of that wonderful content. We have definitely got plenty more coming up on the channel. But yes, most of all, thank you very much for joining us on this journey. Invisible Man later on this week. But yeah, most of all, Invisible Boy later on this week. But yes, thank you very much for watching. Goodbye.